Hey guys, this is Megan with warfest.com. I'm standing out of the Key Club right now. We are having one of our launch parties. We have a lot of bands going on inside. I'm standing here with Casey Royer from
Where?
DI.
Where? No, kidding. Sorry. Yes, it's me, believe it or not. Hi, thanks for having me.
All right, Casey, you seem to be a seasoned vet in the punk scene.
Been playing some punk shows,
Yeah, how long have you guys been doing this? Where did you guys start?
Well, we started like in the 80s, like pretty much early high school, like junior high days back in Fullerton, and just like playing shows, and it just perpetuated into like the madness you're creating right now, and it's pretty cool stuff. And pretty much like when Social Distortion started, me and Mike Ness made that band up in my bedroom at my parents' house, and then I went with the Adolescents, and this is like 1980, and so it was like we just kept on playing shows. People kept coming and listening to what we were saying because it was socially conscious stuff that we were bringing up through music, which hasn't been done really. It was just more rocking in the 60s, on drugs or whatever, and then the 70s, the long hair rockers, and no one really was paying attention to the social consciousness of the music and stuff. So it just became like a really intense, powerful tool for us, and we were just having fun with it. No one tried to, we weren't expecting any kind of grandeur out of our pursuits. We were just trying to have fun and voice our opinion and just go through music because it's fun to play shows and music. We're all like musically inclined kind of like culture in our zone of Southern California, so we all morphed into a bunch of bunch of crazy punk rock kids that ended up just saying some really cool stuff, and that people respect it around the world, and we're stoked. Things are good.
So you were in Social Distortion first, and then Adolescents, and then how did you become in DI, and what the hell does DI stand for? Because I've been trying to figure it out every single show.
It's a tough one, and people have to pull teeth to get that answer. And the new answer for what DI stands for is just don't inquire. And that one epitomizes the whole
No,
I'm kidding. I know it's gnarly, but we can make of anything from dehydrated igloos to like disestablishmentarianistic ideologists, which is just like anarchy in general with the big word, right? Lots of letters and stuff like stuff like that. But that's exactly what happened, Meg. We were just cruising through our deal, and just playing shows. And then me and Mike Ness kind of split off when they asked me to play drums for the Adolescents, and Mike was in a rebellious part of his life right there, and I was kind of cruising. My life was going pretty well, and Mike was going through a divorce situation with his mom and dad were, and he just was a really upset kid at that portion of his life. So he kind of took off with Dennis Donnell in a band called the OC Dustbin, and I was singing for Social Distortion with some early guys that were in DI and Adolescents earlier for Social Distortion. And I was singing for that band with Rick Agnew and Frank Agnew from the Adolescents playing in that band, and then we just morphed into the Adolescents, and then about like a year or two after that kind of just fell apart because we weren't trying really hard to keep the bands together. Why? We're just having fun with our little underground, right?
Yeah.
So DI, they just put me in front with a microphone, and it's history since then.
So you went from drums to singer. How did that happen? And do you still talk to Steve Soto?
Every once in a while, but yeah, basically that was it, just drummer to singer, because I talk a lot, right? And talking more. I was talking more than Tony was, right? I was talking more than the guys that were the singers of the band, right? And people were like adhesing to my consciousness for some weird reason, right? So it was just brought up at practice, I think, because we had these practice areas where we would meet after school or after whatever and just rehearse and just talk about stuff and drink some beers, and there'd be babes here, little brothers over here. It was like kind of a fun thing. So we just would hang out there and write songs.
God, your life just absolutely sucks, doesn't it? All right, tell me how punk has evolved from when you guys started to what it is now, because I know that it cannot possibly be the same.
Yeah, it's definitely different because of just the social awareness of punk rock back then. It was such a pirate kind of music, it was kind of like a wild new disease that they couldn't stop, if that's a good analogy or whatever. And there was a lot of fights. The police were really threatened by the people standing up through music and starting like turbulent riots at shows. I mean, right down the street at the Whiskey, we played with Fear once, and there was like 3,000 kids, and there was a riot. The first bottle went, and there were the bottles all over the place. Good punk rock riots in the 80s, and it was pretty cool. So we just kept doing that, and it just kept happening. And what was the question again, Meg? I'm just caught up in this because it was a lot of fun.
No, I just asked how it's different from back then.
Oh yeah, and now it's a politically correct situation. Like the dads, have kids that they want to show everybody what like TSOL looks like. And there's no imminent, riot, there's just like it's like watching a movie of what punk rock was like, you know, like a documentary, and you're living the documentary. And the music's, you know, the songs all remain the same, but it's just not really the same as like the fresh, bizarre punk rock, you know, entering Southern California or, you know, America, because it got to be pretty violent, pretty crazy, you know. A lot of headlines. You know, my mom saw me on television, kicked me out of the house, you know, because I told her I quit the band. She's all, quit the band, or I'm gonna kick, or you're out of the house. You're nuts. You guys are crazy. And I'm all, okay, I quit, you know. And then she sees us on INLA, like a special on Channel 7. And I'm playing drums, Stardust Ballroom, right down the street, where, you know, in Hollywood. And she's all, dude. And I'm all, oh. Just totally busted by the punk rock phenomenon, yeah. But it was fun because it's fueling our fire. And you know, there's a few record labels came out, like Posh Boy Records came out, and he put out the first Rodney on the Rock Volume 1 record that had, you know, Circle Jerks and like Black Flag and all the really kind of pioneering bands. And a few companies started up with that stuff. Frontier Records started with Suicidal Tendencies, Christian Death, our first Adolescence record. Just a lot of really good stuff. Circle Jerk's first record and TSOL. So that one was just like steamrolled. You know, all of a sudden there was an identity behind our insane little like subculture. So we were just going with it because it was a blast. You know, it was fun. You know.
Yeah.
And you know, we're still within our parameters, and you know, hills and valleys. You know, highs and lows. You know, and we're still touring all over the world. You know, it's a great thing. It's a lot of fun. Those kids like are singing our words in like English in Poland that don't speak English. I'm just all, what?
Isn't that crazy?
It's just blowing my mind for sure. And that movie we made, Suburbia, have you seen that one? It's a punk rock, Roger Corman underground documentary. Oh, it's gnarly. It's a bunch of crew from the scene back in the 80s. And Flea played a guy named Razzle, and all these kids that were like, just like Kids of the Black Hole, that one song that was in the Adolescence record that we did, like all these kids, you know, running from society, living in an abandoned house. And Suburbia like was put out around the world in multiple languages, and it became just like the punk rock cult classic, just to carry the whole generation. I mean, it virtually like just made the whole thing possible. That and Malcolm McLaren of the Sex Pistols, you know, who invented the Sex Pistols, and he copied Don Kirshner of the Monkees. Remember the Monkees? That was a planned band. He's all, we'll make a planned band out of punk rock. Malcolm McLaren, that is. And sorry about that. You know, I usually don't look at the camera that much. But so yeah, so it just goes on and on. Rock and roll is weird, you know. It's just freaking me out. And as long as, like, you know, there's pertinence to our, did I just say that? As long as the songs make sense, right? It's good, you know, as long as there's some sort of basis behind it. It's not all just fluffy, kind of like, you know, but there's good times for fluffy gay music, you know, I don't know. But our scene is like pretty much hardcore for sure from the get-go. You had your Flock of Seagulls and Fear, you know, you had your Boy George, cross-dressing, and the Dead Kennedys cutting heads off of black people and, like, you know, into like old like slave trades.
Yeah.
You know, just a variance. But so everything's cool, you know. You look good, Megan.
Oh, thank you. So,
She always that's right.
Thank you. Obviously, warfest.com, we're really big into supporting the local bands. And how do you guys feel about our support for local bands, like giving them the opportunity to plan a show with you guys?
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, definitely. It's like all about networking and helping out your fellow comrades, you know, if you're from Russia, and you know, in the music scene and stuff, because everybody's like staircases their way up, and if they're a good band, they deserve to play, you know. If you're good, and I like to support, you know, any act that's like having a good time and, you know, living their dream, you know, whether it's through their adolescent period or for their career, you know. It's just it's weird. It's a strange camaraderie of musicians that, like, it's just kind of like an underground, like, it's kind of like an evil cult, but not really, you know. It's like just but everybody's happy to be involved in the music scene. It's like you're making history every time you play a show. It's documented, and whatever happens, a fight or you meet a girl or something, there's always something going on at the shows. So it's just a cool underground kind of family, so to speak, you know.
All right, come here. Okay. I'm here with Casey Royer. We have a lot of really great bands going on tonight. This is one of our launch parties for warfest.com.
Launching.
Woo!
We're going to launch. We're having launch. We're going to have steak sandwiches for launch.
This is Megan signing off. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. That was fun.